Lewis Hart for the Ring magazine. Delighted today to be joined with Skye Nicolson on a nice Friday afternoon. It's been a while since we last caught up. There's a lot been going on. I see you plugging your Snapchat. You know everything. I see you was away last week. Yeah, what's been going on? How's things been?
Yeah, it's been good. Just enjoying life, really.
Mhm.
Um Obviously had quite a busy summer with the two fights back to back in there. There was only like 5 or 6 weeks between the fights. So um yeah, just been enjoying some downtime the last few weeks. Obviously turned 30. Um so yeah, it's been good, but happy to be back in the gym now and looking forward to another fight date.
Was it nice to get that quick return, I guess, because you had obviously the fight in July in Manchester, then soon straight after that, you was back out mid-August. So was that quite a nice thing to, I guess, keep the ball rolling, especially with it being two stoppage victories as well?
Yeah, I feel like I really thrive off the momentum. So like those shorter back-to-back camps really work for me. I feel like we see my best performances when I've been active and I've been in the ring. So I was really glad to get back out again so soon, and obviously it showed in the performance. I did feel that my opponent was going to be a little bit more durable. I thought I was going to get more rounds out of her as she hadn't been stopped before, and that was kind of a shame because I did kind of want a bit more ring time, but saw the opportunity obviously in that second round and just took it. But um, yeah, obviously loving fighting at 122. Feel really good there. Feel like I'm in my peak physical condition right now and really just thriving off that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to touch on to. Now, you know, you've had the two fights in the summer and it being back-to-back stoppages. And albeit, and I'm sure you would have liked both the opponents to sort of be a little bit tougher than they were.
Yeah.
But from that, do you feel like you have gained a lot from those two fights though?
Yeah, I feel like I learned a lot from a lot of uh the stuff that happened around my first defeat in March. Um, and I kind of knew going into the fight in July and August that my mindset had shifted a lot. And I had really changed kind of my approach to my fight preparation. And yeah, I want to be fighting higher level. But I've used this time to kind of adjust things. Um, I think we talked about it a little bit before I went into that fight in July, maybe, or even maybe just after that fight. Like, just talked about how I really did kind of just take a big look within at what I could change, what I could fix, what I could do better. And I think these fights that I just had in July and August were like really good practice runs for me to kind of just put all that into motion. And yeah, obviously the stoppage results kind of showed that what I'm doing is working, and I'm yeah really excited now to take that into big fights and be back in the big fights and be back at world level contention.
That's what I was going to then touch on to because we spoke about it like in the lead up to the sort of the super bantamweight move, the first fight there, and after the Brown fight, and just reflect on that a little bit. I remember you saying like mentally wise, you know, it's sort of having that in check as well.
Hmm.
And that's what I was going to touch on, like because you've had these back to back stoppages. Is there that change in mentality, confidence wise, and like how could you describe that? I guess.
I feel like the best way to describe it is I don't think I ever really went into fights with the mentality or the mindset of I'm going to get them out of there. I'm going to stop them. I'm going to hurt them. Like that kind of mindset was just never my way of thinking. And I don't know if it was that I was just so ingrained in the amateur system. Obviously, I'd boxed as an amateur for my whole life. Um, and was very much a point scoring, all about winning, but never really about demolition job. And I feel like that's been the biggest shift in mindset for me is I'm going to go out and get you out of there as soon as I can. Um, and I feel like that shift has been so important for me just to have that extra drive behind me going into the fight. And I think I did probably my team call it played with my food a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Um, and I was actually criticized quite a lot for it early in my career. And I feel like I couldn't see what was wrong because I was winning.
Mm.
Um, but I think in hindsight now, looking back, I probably would have stopped a lot of the girls that I fought. Um, And I just didn't really like ever look to push the gas or look to try and get them out of there. And I think that was a mindset thing. And it's been probably the biggest mindset shift I've had um, in training, approaching the fight, walking to the ring. I'm thinking about how I'm going to get them out of there as soon as possible. Um, and I kind of love that. I didn't think that would ever be my style. I obviously like I'm always gonna have my boxing and I'm always gonna have my that counter boxing style. But I think also having this change in mindset just adds more to my game now.
And you can look at, you've had two fights since the Brown fight, and what I'd ask you now, and as you can speak openly about that change in mindset, do you think it's been a case of, I want to say, how was it 12 fights up until, was it 12 fights before the Brown? So like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So the 12 fights up until then, would you say you probably learnt more of how maybe the change in mentality from the Brown fight than the 12 fights previous, would you say?
100%. I
Yeah.
learned more from that 13th fight than probably my whole boxing career, and that includes 150 amateur fights. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I did take some time. There was a lot of reflection, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of work that was done after that fight in March, going into the July August fights. It wasn't just a case of
Mhm.
going back into the gym and being more aggressive. It was there was a lot of yeah,
Yeah.
unpacking of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I feel like in those experiences we can sit and dwell on what happened or we can make something good come from it. And I feel like I've really tried to make the most of that experience. Like no one wants to lose, obviously, but I did. So how do I go about never letting that happen again, basically?
Do you still feel like there's a lot more to be done to win people over, I guess, or if you care about that or not?
I think everyone cares about how they're perceived, and I think everyone cares about what people think of them. I think that's a very natural human trait. For me, I don't feel like I need to prove myself to people, but obviously, you want people to believe in you or see the best version in you, the best version of you. And I feel like that will show in my coming fights now, especially now as we're going back up in the levels and we will be at world contention again, fighting at world level, fighting good girls, being in big fights. And I think this new and improved version of me will probably show a lot more boxing fans that I'm not just a counter boxer or I'm not just a one trick pony or this or that, whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do, you can never win over all the boxing fans. So
Yeah.
I try not to dwell on it or think about it too much. It's definitely not my driving motivation, but
Yeah.
um yeah, I do want to show the world what I'm capable of and I feel like I'm on the way to doing that now.
Yeah. Well, boxing fans are some of the hardest to please in any sport. So, after the fight, Tiara Brown was mentioned in the post-fight interview. So I guess I asked you, like, where does the passion really remain? Is it definitely at 122 or is it 126 as well?
I think the rematch is more personal for me. I think if we're looking at my career, logically, taking out the personal stuff, um, I am a different fighter at 122.
Mhm.
I truly believe that. I think not only do the results speak for themselves, but my team sees it. I think the public have seen it. I'm in very good physical shape at 122. I have great physical advantage at 122, and I punch hard at 122. So I feel like the passion for my career right now is at 122. But that being said, I don't think I can end my career without righting the wrong of March 22nd. And obviously for me, that's always going to be a priority for me until I can like go into that rematch. But that being said, I'm not going to be chasing Tiara Brown either. Um, she's not really her team. I don't know. I don't know. Whoever speaks for Tiara, isn't really giving or showing any interest in the rematch. So I'm not going to focus on it. I'm going to focus on progressing my career, becoming a two-time two-weight world champion. Um, my next fight will make me mandatory in the 122 division for a world title. So the winner of Ellie Scotney and Rosquero in November. Um, they'll be undisputed at 122, and I could be fighting for the undisputed world title early next year. So that for me is my main focus right now. And that's where the passion is right now. But that being said, I'm always going to be willing to go back up to 126, fight Tiara Brown. Time and place, let me know. I'll be there. But yeah, focusing on what I can, like what's in my control right now, and that's the 122 division.
And it must feel good to be in a division where you don't feel like the belts are being held up, because I know that was the frustration at 126 where Husarana, who still holds, three of the belts at 126. That isn't
Yeah,
the case at 122. You've got an undisputed fight, the belts are moving, so there must be that relief that you've got something big to aim for.
definitely. And I think like there are really big fights to be made in the 122 division. It is a really exciting division. Um, I think with the 126 division, there was so much politics. The belts were being held. Um, for literal years without being defended. So it was a very frustrating place to be when your goal is to become undisputed.
Yeah.
So that does seem like a much more uh, realistic goal to happen at 122, especially the way the belts are right now. But in saying that, if I had to collect the belts one by one at 122 as well, let's go.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that I could potentially be fighting for undisputed in my next two or three fights is very exciting.
And I'm sure Ellie Scotney would be the preferred option because that fight's been building for some time.
Definitely, of course. So the ideal result for me in November will be Ellie Scotney to win that last belt, become undisputed, and then I become her mandatory in December, and we can get that fight on early in 2026. That for me is the ideal situation. Um, so that's what I'm kind of manifesting happens at this moment. But if Rosquero comes through, then it's still an undisputed fight for me waiting on the other side. So either way, very exciting. But that being said as well, I'm going to be in a big fight in December to be in that position as well. So
Mhm.
my focus is going to be completely on December, obviously keeping one eye on the undisputed
Yeah.
fight in November and then all guns blazing going into 2026.
In an ideal world, do you think, let's say, not tempting fate and whatnot, but Scotney wins undisputed, you win in December. Do you think that she'd stay at 122 for that fight? Because I
I
know,
hope so.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, if you're making 122 in November, surely a really big fight with me for undisputed in the new year, like surely that's enough motivation for you to make the weight, to stay at 122, defend the belts in a big fight. Um, I can only hope. So I hope so. I think it would be quite disappointing if she were to just vacate and move up, and I will again have to fight for a vacant belt. That will be frustrating for me. But that will be up to Ellie. I will be her mandatory in December after I win. So the ball will definitely be in her court.
Mhm. Well, her promoter is obviously Nakisa Bidarian,
Who?
who,
Who's that?
yeah, well, I'm not sure whether to say a fan of yours or whatnot. But yeah, look, I think I want to say the comments were obviously before the fight, that you did make 122, but you spoke about yourself on an aerial show about disregarding the weight. And one of the things you said, he was like, you need to show some viewership, show you can sell some tickets. I haven't actually had the chance to sort of get a response. I know you did respond on air on the aerial show, but I haven't had a chance to, I guess, for your response to that. Like, I know it's been a few months since then, but that must put the bit between your teeth over that potential fight too, and for him to say things like that.
I find him so funny. I think we actually would be really good friends. I think we would get on. But we're not the best of friends
Yeah.
for probably a few reasons, but it is what it is. I never disregarded a weight. I've never not made a weight. I made the weight that was agreed for an 8 rounder. It wasn't a championship fight. It was my first time looking at moving down in weight. We agreed the fight at 124. I weighed in at 123 point something. And very comfortably made 122. I was 121.3 or something for the fight in August. So there was no disregarding the weight there. Um, I stopped someone that hasn't been stopped before as well. So there's There's that as well.
That's
This is
it.
Tito.
Yeah, nice little cameo there.
He's like,
Yeah,
we're
he is
talking
it.
about that Nakisa
Yeah,
again.
he is a pricked up. Yeah,
um, yeah, I don't feel like I need to answer Nakisa. I think he's doing his thing with MVP. He's promoting women's boxing, which is all good. I'm all for it. Big advocate of women's boxing myself. So, um, I think Ellie and I would be a huge fight for the undisputed at 122, and hopefully he agrees and we can make that happen in early 2026.
I know it's a different, like the boxing landscape has changed and it's not really something that gets used now where you've got everyone working together. But is there any part of you sometimes that feels like you're on the other side of the street? Because everyone's, as I say, everyone's with MVP, you're not. Like, is there
I
any
wouldn't say
feel?
everyone's was MVP.
Or like not everyone, but like a large majority of female fighters are with MVP.
Yeah.
Is there any like? And I'm not saying that's a bad thing of you being on that side, like because I say the way that boxing changes and big fights can get made. But yeah, is there any part of you that feels that way? I guess.
No, definitely not. I feel like MVP are still going to work with fighters if it's going to make big fights and it makes sense. So I think there's still plenty of opportunity for me to be in big fights with fighters who are signed to MVP. Um, Matchroom and MVP have worked together on Taylor Serrano fights. Um, I know that they did work with Beatrice Ferreira as well, who's a Matchroom fighter. So yeah, I don't feel like I'm on the other side of the street or anything like that. I have no interest in signing with MVP.
Yeah. I wasn't
Um,
suggesting that, by the way.
yeah.
Like, it's not. Yeah, yeah, I wasn't suggesting that at
So
all.
so for me, no, not really. And I think especially if I'm a mandatory opponent
Mhm.
for one of their fighters, an undisputed champion, um, the conversations are going to have to be had regardless. So
But
yeah,
it must feel good, as we say there. I know you spoke about Tiara Brown there, and Ellie Scotney gets mentioned, and mandatories having loads of options in abundance. And I know you always say, look, line them up. I'm ready to face all of
yeah,
them. That must be a good feeling.
it is a good feeling. I feel like 2026 is going to see me in really big fights against big names. I think my fight in December is going to be a really breakthrough performance in my career, where I am probably going to be taken more seriously um, by people in the boxing community who maybe still think that I'm a hype job or whatever. So I feel like December's fight's going to be really important for that. But also 2026, I think it's just going to be a really big year for me, for my career. I want to be in big, big fights. And this fight in December is going to put me in position to make sure that happens.
Good stuff. And look, before I do let you go, that you're the world champion from the iBox gym, and there's another one going in for a world
Yeah.
title in November. Sam Noakes takes on Abdullah Mason on the ring floor. Yeah, how excited are you, guess, for like that's a real interesting fight between two undefeated fighters for obviously a vacant title too.
Yeah, I'm so excited for Sam. He's obviously been working towards this opportunity for his whole life. So it's very exciting. Energy and vibes are so good in the gym. Um, and I truly believe he's going to do it. I think he's going to be the bigger, stronger man who wants it more on the night. I think it's going to be a great fight. And I think it's really going to stamp Sam Noakes' name on the world stage.
Yeah. Well, look, as a man from Kent, I'd love a Kent world champion. But look, appreciate the time as always. Good to catch up, and sure won't be too long. We're catching up sometime soon. Good to have some company with us as well.
Thanks, Lewis.
Appreciate it. Thank you.